Well, Emmanuel Macron sat down with Al Jazeera to discuss the wave of anger against him. The French president says what he calls radical Islam is a threat to everybody, including Muslims.
Moi, je comprends les sentiments que cela éveille.
I understand the sentiments being expressed and I respect them. But you must understand my role right now. It's to do two things, to promote calm and also to protect these rights.
Mais ce que j'ai voulu dire très clairement, c'est qu'aujourd'hui,
what I wanted to say is very clear, that today in the world there are people who distort Islam, and in the name of this religion that they claim to defend, they kill, they slaughter, they make speeches justifying a kind of expulsion of human groups from the world. Today there is violence practiced by some extremist movements and individuals in the name of Islam. Of course this is a problem for Islam because Muslims are the first victims, and as I mentioned before, more than 80% of the victims of terrorism are Muslims. And this is a problem for all of us.
Yasser Louati is a civil liberties activist and the head of the Justice and Liberties for All Committee. He joins me via Skype from Paris. Thanks very much for being with us. Just wanted to ask you, first of all, what you make of President Macron's interview. Will it go some way towards dampening down the anger towards him and France?
I mean, Emmanuel Macron is already out of touch with the realities of millions of people in France, and now he's showing that he's really ill-advised. How can he, on the one hand, say he stands against radical Islam without ever defining it? And when we know that in practice in France, people have been labeled radical Muslims for fasting the month of Ramadan, for praying 5 times a day, or wearing the headscarf. In the same basket, they put practicing Muslims and terrorists killing Muslims first all around the world. As for him trying now to tell Muslims, I understand your frustration, or understand your feelings, but I want to promote freedom of speech, then how is it in France, for example, you get fined 7,500 euros for desecrating the French flag? What he's basically saying is that you are not adult enough to have a feeling that we can, consider. And Emmanuel Macron has cornered himself with this identity politics. He sincerely needs to act as a president, not as a lobbyist or as an ideologue. The situation right now in France is spiraling out of control, and there are reasons to worry.
Now, I want to ask you, he also tweeted today, la laïcité n'a jamais tué personne, so secularism has never killed anyone, defending the principle which is normally associated with the separation of church and state. What do you think he meant in the context of Islam in France in particular? How does he relate that to this issue?
To be honest, I'm going to make a confidence. It was quite unbelievable. He would publish that tweet just after leaving the Al Jazeera studio or after finishing his interview. And as you noticed, madam, the tweet was not in English or in Arabic when he tends to send a message. So right now, after whining on Al Jazeera about how he has been misquoted and misunderstood, he now came back to the French audience saying, I will never back down. So what is this? This tweet is actually incomplete. Laïcité has never killed anyone. Maybe he meant unlike something else, or unlike other people's beliefs, etc. So that's why Emmanuel Macron really needs to stop adding oil to the fire and deal with France as a country that he's supposed to protect. A priest got shot today, and I'm very pessimistic about the outcome of his shooting. 3 people got killed 2 days ago. Another one was beheaded 10 days ago. All of that in an atmosphere of Emmanuel Macron trying to boost his running for re-election in 22 on identity politics and his so-called war against Islamism. Again, madam, we have no definition whatsoever of radicalization, of radical Islam, or anything like that. So that means they can go after any Muslims, as they are doing today. They raided dozens of homes, mosques, and Muslim NGOs across France. And then we have the Minister of Interior saying, we have got nothing legally speaking against them, but we are sending a message. 2 days later, he goes on a rant saying, I am also shocked that there are halal shelves in supermarkets. My question is, are you going to fight terrorism by banning halal food in supermarkets? We need adults in the room right now, and this country needs responsible people.
So
that's why...
on that point, though, so what measures do you think would make a difference? Because presumably there are a number of big issues that are there, and there's also this climate of anger because of the attacks that you mentioned. So what measures do you think would be effective to try and calm things down and also to reduce the risks?
I mean, pardon me, madam, for being blunt, but Emmanuel Macron, as I said earlier, is already out of touch for millions of us. And he's already ill-advised. What he needs right now is to get rid of the blind ideologues surrounding him and get some real advisors with a proven track record on foreign policy and domestic policy. The second one is to overhaul our foreign policy and also our counter-terrorism. And the third one, if he's talking about Islam being hijacked by terrorists, how about dealing with Muslims as adults and let them speak for themselves and allow them to organize? If they are the first victims of terrorism across the world, they need to stop being treated like the suspects. And the first victims of terrorism, I am sure, if you give them the necessary platforms, they will come up with a solution that works for everybody. Just take one note, madam. All across French media right now, you don't see a single Muslim being given a platform. You only have white people speaking on behalf of Muslims in their absence. How can we have a solution in this atmosphere when the first victims of terrorism are invisible and the president speaks for them and on their behalf?
Yasser Louati, thank you very much indeed for talking to us on Al Jazeera. Appreciate it.
Thank you, madam.